But TVC News, we'll have our reporters there. As soon as collation resumes in those states, we'll bring you live pictures. But we're staying with our conversation here in the studio. We still have a political analyst and President Team Nigeria for Change, Best Man Jumbo Unze. And just before the break, we're looking at the disparity between the number of registered voters and accredited voters, across these 3 states, and even just coming from the general election.
Yeah. We looked at one now. We said, whether we like it or not, we cannot pin it to just one factor, because so many things contribute to those disparities. The fact that the general election even held, they should give kudos to the resilience of Nigerians, because it actually held at a point where a lot of Nigerians were disillusioned. I knew it got to a stage where if I gave somebody 200 naira notes, okay, there was a day a friend gave me 5,000 notes, and I was so appreciative. And he was looking at everybody, they were looking at themselves. Yeah, I gave this one 5,000. It's like 5 million. So
I remember, sorry to interrupt you, I remember speaking to one of our correspondents then who was, on air, and she was giving us situation report where she has to have, the whole cash, policy. And then she said, Precious, I can tell you that all I have on me, I think she said 200 or 2,000. And I looked at her like, you're richer. What are you saying? You're richer than me. So you should be excited because you're richer than me.
Because anybody with cash then was a rich person.
Exactly.
Because you couldn't access what was in the bank.
But do you think that, we should also, embark on, as people have suggested, on a voter register cleanup, that there should be a cleanup? Perhaps some people have passed, perhaps some people have moved out of the country, perhaps, some names are even non-existent.
It should be regular. It shouldn't be periodic anymore. 2 days ago, I was just saying to myself, I wanted to move my voting area to another area, because I remember anytime there's election, I have to drive down from my house in Ogba to Yenagoa, where I used to stay and where I could vote. So person said, maybe we have to wait for. I said, we need to check. And if not, we must ensure that this thing becomes an ongoing regular thing. We check, okay, probably every quarter, we revise the voters register. Who are those who are still alive? Who are those who have passed on? Who are those who have jackpot? Because a lot of Nigerians are now also on the immigration route. So it's something that we should revise more regularly than it is being done now.
But do we have the data to even revise it? Do we know the people who have passed? How do you, we don't have, people will say, look, we're not good at keeping data. How do you know those who exist, those who don't exist, those who have passed? That's a lot of work, and it might be manual more than it is digital.
You start from somewhere. We might not get it 100%. We might not be perfect. And when you do those revisions, some will come. Invite people to come. Please, after every quarter, come and check whether your name is still there. There's a way you do it. If after 2, 3, 4 quarters, this particular person didn't, you can write them, you can contact them. Because when we're registering, some got our emails and phone numbers. So they could reach people. And then somebody could reach and somebody will reach you, so person is gone. Somehow, you might not get everything, but let's start somewhere. Until you start, you've not started.
And if we were to embark on this cleanup, how surprised do you think we will be?
How what?
How surprised do you think we will be? What information are we going to get? And how bad
you will suddenly see the number of ghost voters that we have. Because it was when government started also doing the same thing with civil servants or civil service employees, that you found out that there are so many ghost workers. I remember in Kogi, when the Governor Abelo was doing the screening, we found out there's a guy who owned a big school in Okene. He was a director in the Ministry of Education of Kogi State. And he owned a big school in Okene, his own private school. But all his teachers were all on the payroll of the government. So how do you beat that? So a lot of things will be exposed. We found out there was one place that was supposed to be a school that collects subvention. Eventually, it was a market. We found a lot of people who work in Abuja were collecting salaries in the local government in Kogi, which was the thing that Bello screening exposed. So when we do this regularly, we find out that, oh, this person, Okonkwo Israel, is the same Okonkwo Matthew, is the same Ajayi Boduni, is the same Shehu Musa. You know, different things will come up. And we begin to clean up. Like we also say, it might take some time to get to El Dorado, but at least we have started. That's the important thing. And I think they should give you one nice position in INEC because you have some beautiful ideas that you're throwing up.
I've told you that when you get this project, just maybe I don't want to work with INEC. Just maybe for my intellectual property. That's all I want. But let's talk about the collation, because this is where we are at, you know, in this side of the election. But talk to us about, because we see a lot of delays. It must seem to have been faster. But one would have thought that a Bayelsa with 8 local governments would have been faster. We understand that there are riverine areas where, you know, the terrain, you know, you have to come in. But what's the reason for the delays, you know, in terms of collation?
Don't also forget that I've been watching, before I came to the store, I was watching TVC.
Sorry, let me put you on hold. We need to get update from Bayelsa, where our correspondent Uche Okoro is standing by to give us update from that Collation Centre. Uche, we were expecting the collation to reconvene at 6 p.m., but it looks like there is now about a 45 or 42 minutes delay. What's going on there?
Right now, we're still right here inside the Collation Centre at the INEC headquarters in Yenagoa, and action is yet to resume. You're correct. You're correct when you said that the Commission had promised that they would reconvene at 6 p.m. to take the last 2 local government areas, but we're here almost an hour late. There is no news as to why the collation is yet to reconvene, but we're all still here. Journalists are still here. I see in front of me political party agents, a few INEC officials are here. A number of observers are also here too. Everyone's waiting for the commission to come here and take the last 2 local government areas, which would complete the number to 8, which make up the total number of local government areas in Bayelsa State. But as to a reason why it hasn't reconvened, we haven't been given any from INEC here in Bayelsa State.
But do we know if those results have been brought in from the local governments to Yenagoa?
Yesterday, when the collation resumed at 9 p.m., when the Collation Centre opened last night, the Commission had said that they have results from just 1 local government area, and that it would, because of the total number of local government areas, it would be unwise to commence collation last night. I also made efforts to find out that particular local government was Southern Ijaw. So as at last night, some results from Southern Ijaw were in. So it is a surprise why those results are not ready for collation. Southern Ijaw is one of the 2 local government areas that we're still expecting to be collated: Brass local government and Southern Ijaw local government area. So if collation of Southern Ijaw was already had begun last night at INEC office, it is quite a surprise that it is still one of the last local government areas. But if you flash back the history of elections in Bayelsa State, Southern Ijaw normally the last local government to come in, one of the last local governments to come in. But I mean, that situation, Brass and Southern Ijaw still being expected.
So we saw earlier party agents raising concerns and being really aggrieved. How is that being addressed, or has that been addressed?
You know that collation is not a place to address, Collation Centre rather is not a place to address complaints or grievances or allegations raised by political party agents. Now, that much has been made clear by the returning officer. That much has been emphasized, re-emphasized, and repeated a number of times, that this is not the place where those grievances and complaints can be addressed. Rather, you are expected to just state your case. Just state your case here for the records, make your case official, as returning officer would put it, and then after the collation, any winner is declared, and the commission will take steps to address them, and then aggrieved parties also have the courts to approach to vent their grievances. So the commission has their hands are tied so long as collation is concerned. The job of this, the business, the election is simply at this. The election is simply at the stage where results are being collated. The issue of addressing grievances will be left for the courts and the commission post-collation. So that's the situation. We expect, of course, these grievances and expressions of dissatisfaction with results to continue when the collation resumes here at the INEC office in Yenagoa.
And we saw Uche earlier in Imo where someone was allegedly beaten and dragged out of the Collation Centre. What is the mood and the atmosphere like at the Collation Centre in Bayelsa?
Well, really tense, especially when the result of Nembe local government area came in. Many were not surprised because Nembe is one of the swing local government areas in Bayelsa State. So when those results came in, there were a lot of heated arguments, especially between the political party agent of the All Progressives Congress. There were a lot of heated exchanges between himself and the returning officer. So those results, at that point, it was beginning to look like we're going to have an emo experience in Bayelsa State. But fortunately, the INEC officials here were able to contain that. And of course, I think the APC agent himself at some point decided to rein himself in and maybe can perhaps control his emotions as regarding the results of Nembe local government. I think so far in the collation process, it was that's the only point I can say we came very close to an emo situation. But so far, I think the returning officer has been able to perhaps I would say bring the party agents or keep them under control and keep the emotions in check. So I think we don't expect things to get any worse than they have in terms of exchanges when Nembe and Southern Niger come in. Even though a lot of persons have said that those last two results are there's speculation or there's the calculation that those last two results are going to be the deciders as far as this governorship election in Bayelsa State is concerned.
And talking about the returning officer, Uche, at some point he almost felt like a school principal who, had to say, look, if you keep talking, I'm going to take the mic from you. At that point, it felt like a school, and then his school principal addressing, people, because it looked like emotions were going wild. But I also wanted to ask you about Brass. There was a story around Brass earlier saying that they were not allowing them to collate in that local government. They were going to take the collation to Yenagoa, and they were looking to stop that from happening. Is there any contention over the results from Brass?
As far as results from Brass are concerned, I think, we've heard a number of those concerns being raised, but I think that to paint for a clearer picture for perspective on that, when collation resumes, we would know, because the local government returning officer and electoral officer will be here when they tender their results, when they present their results. I think they will tell us more about these issues, and when they do, we would also hear, I'm very sure that we would also get comments and reactions from the political party agents about what happened in Brass. So yes, I know that there are a lot of questions about Brass and perhaps Southern Niger, what's causing the delay and all that, but those questions are likely to be answered when collation resumes here. The returning officer and the electoral officer would give more information as to if anywhere was cancelled, where collation took place, and then the party agents would also react to that. Then we can have a clearer picture of what exactly transpired or what is happening in Brass local government areas.
What's about what security is like there now, considering how emotions were, flying high earlier?
Well, the security situation across Yenagoa State, in the state capital, at least for now, seems to be calm. Even though earlier in the day there was a protest, a very serious protest early this morning by supporters of one political party. At some point in the day when I tried to gain access to the INEC headquarters in Yenagoa, it was really difficult. I was only able to, there's been a lot of screening from few blocks and kilometers away from these screenings begin some few kilometers away from the INEC office itself. I was only able to gain access to the INEC I was only able to come a few steps close to the gate of the INEC headquarters in Yenagoa here because I am a journalist and I have an election duty sticker to show. So there's a lot of screening going on. There's a lot of security is at very high alert around this vicinity because there's still, as I speak to you, there is still a very large crowd of persons camped outside around the perimeter of the INEC office, a very large crowd. Security agencies, the military and the police are having quite a hard time keeping them under control. There's loud music playing, there's a lot of dancing going, there's a lot of singing going around, there's a lot of group people eating and gathering to eat in groups. So people are, there's a large crowd right now camped outside of the INEC office here in Yenagoa, watching and monitoring the developments and keeping tabs on the collation happening inside here where I am right now. So but I can tell you from my observation and from my experience that the military personnel and the police officers are certainly on standby. They are on their feet, trying to keep the crowd at bay and keep them a safety stance away from the INEC headquarters here. So yes, there are security concerns, but so far I would say that the security agencies have managed to bring and keep everything under control here.
So the large crowd, they're basically just party supporters, right?
Yeah, just party supporters. Yeah, just party supporters. Just party supporters. Earlier in the day, earlier in the morning, late morning, there was a protest. So apparently, when the protest subsided, when the protest dies down, when there was some normalcy was restored, these protesters did not leave. The crowd who came to protest did not leave. So while the protest itself has fizzled out, the crowd has remained. An INEC official went out to address these protesters, and shortly after that, the protest fizzled down. Tensions normalized. Everywhere became calm, but this crowd are still outside there singing and dancing to loud music and making access to the INEC office still very difficult. You would literally be driving at 5 kilometers per hour or less than 5 kilometers per hour, else you would run into somebody, right? So that's how thick the crowd is right now, camped outside the INEC office here in Yenagoa. So everyone is waiting for the last local governments to come in. We do not know if we're going to take the next two local governments at a stretch, or if we will take one local government and again go for the third recess. Since collation resumed today, we've had 2 recesses. If we don't know if there's going to be one local government and then a recess, or we'll simply just take the last 2 local government areas and then take the last recess before the officials come back to reconvene, and then right here they will sit here and impute the final results onto that final result sheets and display to everyone. So we do not know yet, but we are here. While we're here doing our business, the crowd and security agencies are out there doing theirs.
And Uche, since we've been speaking, is there any sign that collation will resume soon?
No sign. I would say no sign. This is almost an hour behind schedule for the promised resumption of collation, but as I speak to you, there is no sign. Everyone is still sitting. A lot of persons are sleeping. A certain number of persons dozing off and trying to keep themselves busy with their phones and discussing in groups, just trying to stay active till all this comes to an end. It's normal though. All the vigil is normal, but a lot of persons are doing what they can to keep themselves busy and stay alert until this whole thing comes to an end. But as to if there are signs that this is going to end anytime soon, or if collation is going to resume anytime soon, no signs from here where I stand. Perhaps outside the door of the Collation Centre, maybe, but from here that I stand, from my observation, there are no signs that this is going to resume. Anytime soon. But who knows? By the time I drop this microphone, the INEC officials may just be walking in to the pleasure of everyone who, I believe, are all tired of waiting.
You know, Uche, you just reminded me. I remember, during the general election, we're in Abuja for the national collation, and INEC would say, oh, we'll reconvene at 12, and everybody will go, and that's like 3 p.m. Because it looks like INEC has his own idea of collation time. You just add 3 hours, and then you're good. But, we will let you go now, Uche, so you can we know you're on your feet, so you can focus on that collation. I will bring you live pictures when we have them. Our correspondent there at the Collation Centre, Yenagoa, Bayelsa, Uche Okoro.